Black magic.
You've got to know, you've got to show, it's time to roll. So just tell me what you wanna hear. Tell me what you want, so just tell me what you wanna hear.
Ryan Fleming here, Ratg TV, and I am here with in the home of Joe Serianni.
Hey, yeah.
Thanks so much for having me and inviting me
no
over,
problem,
brother. It's a big pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Thank you for coming.
We've known each other for a long time, man.
Yes.
Off and on, we're Welland boys through and through.
Yeah, true, in and out, yeah.
We've got a big event coming up next week. Ratg TV, we're doing a fundraiser for autism.
Yes.
Raising funds, if we can, for Autism Ontario Niagara chapter.
Yeah.
And you're a big proponent of this as well, and
Yes, I
you
am.
wanted to help out. Tell us a little bit about why.
Okay, so actually, well, I have a son, Ashton. He's 3.5 years old now,
Right.
and he was just diagnosed with autism, so it's hitting home more.
Mhm.
I've always been a supporter of a lot of local charities anyway, but with this year, it's a little bit more personal, right?
Right.
So it's been a struggle, and actually for 14 months to get him even even diagnosed with autism.
Wow.
Such a process, and so now we finally got the diagnosis, and then now it's like, where do we go from here?
Mhm.
Where do we look for support? How do we get him the certain therapies that's needed? And obviously with Autism Niagara, they offer a lot of support, and they kind of put you in the right ways. So there's ABA therapy,
Okay.
which is it works on their behavior or special needs that they might want to achieve. For example, for him, he has to wear hearing aids, so he's very sensitive to his ears. And with autism, you have a lot of sensitivity, right?
Right.
So he won't wear his hearing aids. So that's something that we're going to try to be working on, to be getting him to wear his hearing aids, and speech communication.
Mhm.
Niagara Peninsula Children's Center in St. Catharines, a great organization, and we've got speech therapy there, occupational therapy there, and he's been doing that now for about a year, and he's now starting to be able to communicate with us.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about that first time that he spoke with you. We talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah. So, he does like some like basic words. He'll ask for like play, and he loves his milk, so he'll be like milk or something like that. But as you can hear him now in the background, running around and singing and playing some soccer. But it was really big. The one night I went to put him in bed, and this 3.5 years now, and I always hear from my daughter, but so I put him into bed and I go, "Good night, Ashton, night, Ashton," and he goes, "Night, Daddy," and then he looks at me and goes, "I love you, Daddy." And man, my heart just melts, and
Right.
and then trying to get him to say it the next day, and the next day, and the next
Right.
day, haven't heard it since, right? So
Are you up there every night with a recorder just in
just
case
to
he
see,
says
yeah,
it
like, if he can catch us again, right? So now I need you in the background
Right,
there,
right.
right? Just trying to catch him one time, but
I'm like President Obama's photographer.
yeah,
for you.
just always lurking around, right? But like, just hearing that, and I hear like my daughter will say, "Good night, Daddy, I love you," every night, and
Right.
it's special. You're hearing that from any
course.
child, right? But hearing that come from my son, that having a big communication problem was a big thing.
Yeah, no
Actually,
doubt.
here comes the sister here now.
The sister, the big sister.
The big sister, and she's a big help too. She helps play with Ashton and helps take care of Ashton, and
Awesome.
does all that
So,
stuff.
so you feel good being a helpful big sister? Are you Ashton's hero?
Yeah.
No. You're a modest hero. I like it. Just like Wonder Woman.
That's it. She's sweet. She actually she now helps get his milk, and we'll get toys for him, and
amazing.
certain times, so if he's gets a little bit agitated or something, because it is a communication problem. So if he can't communicate to what he's wanting, sometimes he'll I guess you say like act out, but it's just because he's trying to ask for something. Well, Janessa now has picked up a lot of the signs,
Right.
and
Nice.
the big sister goes and helps him get his stuff.
She's the interpreter.
The interpreter.
The interpreter.
And speaking of the little man, I think he's coming right now.
The star of the hour.
Daddy.
You did.
Hi, bud.
Yes, running.
So here's Ashton.
Awesome.
running. I
He's-
do running.
I saw you do some running there. That was pretty
You wanna do
amazing.
some running? Yeah, sweetie.
Running. I do running. With Ashton
Yeah.
and Mom.
So Ashton, did you have fun, buddy?
Serious
Okay.
running. I do running.
Okay,
You
you
did
guys can
lots
go
of
running.
running.
All right.
Yay! I'm gonna.
All right, there they
And
go.
as you see, very active. And,
Very, very active,
And they're
yes.
very close, too, the two of them.
Oh,
I mean, it comes off that way.
Oh yes, like and then that's one thing that I see the empathy and the compassion from Janessa and him. Like he's such a good-hearted
Yeah.
kid, and like as you would say to like anything else is, when you hear of a good child or a good boy or
Yeah.
a good girl, that is him. Like he's genuine, very loving, very like just a good child, right?
Awesome. Amazing.
Way back.
We are. See, we're on the video. Want to say hi? Ryan's doing
Say
an
hi?
interview.
Say hi, everybody.
Hi. All
We'll
right.
get you the B-roll tape for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, seeing them together though is great, and play together, and yeah, awesome, yeah.
So when it comes to dealing with autism nowadays, especially you're saying you're getting help from Autism Niagara or Autism Ontario Niagara chapter. What are some of the things that they excel at, and what are some of the things that you think that they maybe need some help with?
Well, obviously funding is a big thing.
Right.
Right now with these cuts from the government it kind of sounds like they're giving a lot to the parents, but it's really not. It's not enough out there, and pretty much like what we need is it's kind of both. Parents need support.
Right.
Where do we begin? Where do we go? Where do I look at? Where do I spend my money?
Mhm.
Should I do this therapy? Should I do that? Because it's like kind of like shopping too. Like you can just go and spend a lot of money at a grocery store, but you don't know what you're gonna cook, right? And same thing with this. So you can buy this and pay for this, and you could go like broke in a sense.
Right.
They kind of guide you, and they'll look down and say, what does your child need? And that's why they call it a spectrum, the autism
Right, of
spectrum.
course.
Every child with autism has different needs,
Mhm.
and I heard a good thing is, don't teach us how you want to be, how we think we should be taught, but teach us how we learn.
Yeah.
Right. And so they'll sit down with them and with any child, but especially with Ashton, and figure out what he needs and where his goals are, his strength, and then his weaknesses to get them to become strengths.
Right.
The biggest thing is, like I said, it's the cost, because some of these therapies can cost anywhere between $2,000 to $5,000 for not like a one-time session, but like a block session. So that could be 7 or up to 12 sessions.
Wow.
And even at that, like at 12 sessions, it may or may not work. You might need to go another
Right.
12. There's no cure. There's no fix.
No.
Right. You just want to hopefully that they'll get better and try to become, I guess the biggest thing is to become independent.
Right.
Right. And what I look at is I'd rather see them get the support and stuff now, instead of when they're 18, 19 and then have to go on
Exactly.
government works or social assistance because they cannot get an independent job and do those basic skills that anybody would
Right.
want, like kind of like what you say, grow up, graduate school, get a job, get your own apartment or
Right.
something, and be independent. And having those basic set skills now, building a foundation now, will help them
Right. In
later.
the future.
And that's what these programs and these organizations do. And for the children and for us, like like this is all very overwhelming. Like I'd be
Right.
lost without them. Like don't know where to start. Right?
Like, what was your reaction when you heard about Ford's cuts to autism specifically?
Wow. Well, it was kind of like it was a hit to the stomach. Like you're taking away from the most vulnerable and most people that needed them, like in a sense, like in the most, like this is something that like and I've talked with other parents too. Like there's some parents that their therapy costs anywhere between $40,000 up to $60,000 a year because they have major behavior.
Right.
Like we're lucky where he doesn't have a behavior problem, but when you look at their breakdown, it's like 20 grand per year, and it's from the age of 2 to 6 years old. but most children do not get diagnosed until the age of 4. Okay, 3.5 to 4.
Right.
So that first 2 years of being 2 and 3 is gone, and once you do get diagnosed, it's another 18-month waiting period before they'll even get a penny for their therapy. So now you're looking at almost 5.5 years old, which now they're at the 6 years old where they're not going to get they're not going to get their money. And so then there's like, well, what about retro pay? And there is no retro pay. And so that first big hunk of money, I guess you'd say that 80,000 or 20,000 for those first 4 years is gone. And then after that's 5,000 a year. Well, that, like I said, covers one therapy session.
Right.
And they could go through 2 or 3 therapy sessions a year. That's not including speech therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy. Like, so luckily he's got good muscle tone and that kind of
Right.
stuff. You see him running
Of
around.
course.
But some of them don't have that, and so they need physiotherapy and they need occupational therapy. So he has a hard time even just writing and holding a pen. So learning to do that and feeding himself, right? Your basic skills, right? And so those are some of the things that you're going to be paying for. With these cuts that Ford had put in there, if you got some retro pay, or if you were able to get this therapy done, these kids could very well excel very, very well on their own. For example, like when we're talking about like that speech thing, like he wasn't able to to communicate well, but we've had him with the children's center doing speech therapy once a week, and like I said, 3.5 years later, he finally said it one night. Night,
Right.
daddy, I love you, daddy. And that wouldn't have come if it wasn't because of speech therapy.
Right.
And so speech therapy is covered up to the age of 4. After 4, you have to pay for it yourself. So as of for next year, when we get this funding, we got to decide. So ABA therapy, which is 5,000, speech therapy, which is like $80 an hour,
Wow.
which we see results,
Yeah.
right? And you got to choose, right? Like, so you choose to get them now with these cuts. Here's another thing: they don't just here's 20 grand, go do what you want. You got to pay for it up front, submit a receipt,
And then hope to get reimbursed.
and then get reimbursed it back. Well, that means you got to have the money up front too, right? And luckily I'm in a job position where I can afford it now, but at the same time too, there's people that are not in that position, and even so, I gotta still choose. Like, do I do something recreational and
Right.
fun with my kids, like going on a vacation or camping or whatever, right? Or going to dance, putting my daughters in dance, or putting my son into basketball or something like that, or getting him his therapy. Clearly,
You're right.
they're gonna go to
Get
therapy, right? But with those cuts, it's gonna really affect a lot of people. And I've talked to some people that have been waiting already, and their child is like 6 and 7 years old. They're by the time they get anything now with like another year and a half, they're going to be 8, 9 years old. Well, it's not to say that, but they're building blocks.
Yeah.
That opportunity has been missed.
Yeah.
Right, and they don't have the money to put it on or to get that therapy for these kids. And I've also seen some people where they've had to sell their home.
Yeah.
Being a realtor and that kind of stuff. And here, got to sell their home and got to sell this or sell that, and to be able to pay for it. And I also, here's another thing: when they do get their funding, some families have 2 or 3 children with autism, right, or spectrum,
Right.
and they're going to get the X amount of funding, or they only have X amount of money, and they got to sometimes choose
Which
child gets it. And that's number one. That's devastating for a parent. How do you choose A or B for their kid, and then for the kids themselves, to not be able to receive that, or to be kind of like given up on, right? And again, if these cuts weren't done, or if they had more funding or readily available, so that we can get them, or like get that retro pay, because like I said, you're not you don't catch autism.
No.
You don't just you catch a cold, you get better. You're born with this. And so I don't know why they even capped it at the age of 2, because when he was born, they're
You
born
had
with
it,
this, right?
right.
It's kind of like when you see Down syndrome, and so you could see a physical disability, right? Well, with autism, it's a mental disability. You don't see that until their growth comes.
Right.
And like I said, you don't just all of a sudden at 2 catch autism. They were obviously born with it, right? So yeah, no. So that there being said, though, with their funding, you would love to. I would love to see the government or these places step up, and then also what you're doing with these fundraisings,
Yeah.
with these getting donations and having these places funded so that they can provide something to us, or at least a guidance to us.
Right.
It's huge, man. It's
Now,
huge.
how big of a deal, or should I say, how much do you see out there a lack of education when it comes to autism? From family, friends, the general public.
Y- You know what? It's and not to be rude, but the older generation, okay, like my parents, my in-laws, because having to teach them because they just don't know,
Right.
and not even that. Even our own self, like I'm still learning,
Mhm.
right? But I think that we're a little bit more acceptable. We're,
Right.
we're with that integration and getting them integrated into certain things. But like I've had people tell me, oh, it's okay, he'll grow out of it. Well, you don't grow out of it. Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I've had like a gentleman like he's like, oh, don't worry, they'll grow out of it. Well, no, you don't grow out of autism. They're just a child. He's okay. Well, no, yeah, and I understand children are
Yeah.
they got a lot of
Right,
energy
right,
and they're
right.
ambitious and they go and do stuff and that's what a normal boy or normal kid does or what is normal anyway. But children do. But yeah, teaching them like they need this support. They need these certain therapies. Obviously, like I've had a lot of posts and stuff on social media, and you get some ignorance on there. They're
Yep.
like, well, they'll be okay. Just just be a little more strict with them, or
Don't vaccinate them.
don't vaccinate. Yeah, like give them more broccoli. Well, it's got nothing to do with all this, right?
Right.
And it's so that's kind of sad. And I've seen when we're out somewhere is well, when he came inside you today, comes running up to you and he's headbutting you in the tummy, right?
Right.
That's just him. Like he actually liked you.
Exactly. That's what I was figuring.
Yeah, you got accepted, man. Like he's like, all right, this guy's cool. Boom, he's gonna hit you in the tummy. But like that's him being like like accepting. But it's like, well, like that he shouldn't do that. Well, no, that's him. That's
Yeah.
him, right? That's his stuff. And teaching that, like even like with my mom and stuff, like what should I do and how should I do it? Like, well, no, you treat him the same.
Yep.
You act the same. You might have to say it a couple more times. And the biggest thing is breaking it down to very small like sentences like if you say like hey, Ryan, like, hey, do you want a coffee? It's just more like want coffee.
Right.
You can't add in those extra words, right? So like hey, he loves his milk, so it's kind of be like, Ashton, would you like to have a glass of milk?
It's too
Way
much.
too much. Way too much for him. It's just Ashton, milk? And it's a yes or a no.
Right.
And that processing, and he knows his answer, but I come as, a little genius.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
He can count up to 100. He knows his alphabet, knows his letters. He's kind of teaching me iPads. Oh, he knows more stuff on that
Well,
iPad than I know.
they say a lot of people suffering from autism. I don't even know if you'd say
Yeah.
suffering.
Yeah.
People who have
Yeah,
autism,
yeah.
though, they say a lot of them are savants.
Oh.
Where they have a special skill that they're so much better than everybody else at.
Crazy,
You
man.
know.
Crazy.
What is and we'll finish up here because this is Easter, of course. So,
Yeah. No worries.
But what is one thing you would like the general public to know, and two, and I'll let you do the
Yeah.
last one after that. What is one thing you'd like to tell the government?
Okay.
When it comes to this, and
Wow.
You can feel free.
Those are some big questions.
We can
Those
censor
are some
some
big
of this.
questions. All right, well, let me figure out which finger I should use for the government.
Right.
But anyway, let's know. But you know what? I think just for the general public is when you see them out there, accept them.
Right.
And I'm seeing that a lot more. They are accepting, and even like my daughter's friends and the kids, they are more acceptance to this. Everybody has their quirks and quirks, I guess
Right.
you could say. I say everybody has a piece of autism in them, right?
Right.
And to a certain point. But it's more of when you see something like that, don't just assume that like they're a bad person or they're a person with troubles or something, because it is something that they are born with, and that it is like a condition, and it is something that they are trying to work on and trying to be accepted into that to the regular public. for the government. Oh boy, I don't know if you have enough tape.
Whoa.
I don't know if you have enough tape or enough memory on there.
Let's check my battery.
For the government, I guess I'm gonna just kind of keep it straight and clean. Don't give up on them. You know, don't put so much red tape on them. Don't put so much red tape on us parents. I don't want to be out there like kind of like doing like this as a handle, but if you're gonna give funding or you're gonna do funding for them, make it available, make it something that we are able to get and to put to them. And I'm not just saying go and hand the family money. If we have to use it and get receipts and or pay for it or send it directly to these people, that's fine. I don't need the money in my hand. I honestly don't need the money in my hand. I don't need it in my bank account. But when I need to go pay for his things, make it that I can write a check or that it could be a self-withdrawal and pay for them. This 20 grand a year for up to their 6 and $5,000 after. It sounds like you guys are doing something really good, but it's a lot of lipstick and mascara for them. That they're counting on you. They're our future. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, to me it seems that there's enough hurdles to try to overcome without the government putting in more hurdles for you guys. Joe, I just want to thank you for inviting me to your home, to your family on Easter morning of all of it. This was amazing. I hope this is going to do a lot to enlighten some folks. If you can, folks, come out next Saturday, April 27th, to the Vegan Hippie Chicken, well on 91 East Main Street, from 1 to 11. We are doing a fundraiser.
Support, man.
That's it. All our proceeds, everything that you guys bring in, we're not doing any door charges, but we are asking you to give a donation of at least $5. Every single cent is going to go straight to Autism Ontario Niagara chapter. If you can't make it out, you'll see the link right down here. You can donate right directly to them. Just put that it's as per Ratg TV, and it'd be great. Folks, again, this has been an absolute pleasure. Joe, thanks so much, my brother.
Thank you very much. Please donate. It's these children need it. They really do.
Awesome. So for Joe Serianni, for Ryan from Ratg TV, thanks everybody and happy Easter.
Black magic.
You got to know, got to show, it's time to roll. So just tell me what you wanna hear. Tell me what you want, so just tell me what you wanna hear.